Yes, hello everyone. So let us start. Let us start with the next thing. Everyone, I hope you people are able to see my screen, right? This is what we started with in the last session. I explained you the theory part behind linear regression, and then we seen the implementation of this, right? Step by step we have seen. So as I told you that I will be sharing this particular thing with you. So everyone, what I will do is I will try to share the application with you, whatever the application, like with the model which we created, right, by following all these steps. So I'm sharing this particular file in the group, right? Dataset I have already shared with you, but anyway you will be getting the dataset and everything. So this is what we have seen everyone, and finally we created the model. If you remember, this is our model, right? And how we saved the model? We saved the model by using a package called as pickle. Okay. So why am I telling you this? Because now what I am going to do is from that model I am going to create an application, a web application I can say. Because see, like those who are present in the last session, I hope they will get this point, right? So what we done in the last session is we have come up with this particular model. Okay, this model we have saved here, and that model we have used to predict the chance of the admission of the person to get admission in some foreign university for masters. Okay, this is what we have seen. Now the thing is, here we are entering all these values. See, I hope you remember GRE score, TOEFL score, university rating, letter of recommendation, right? Then CGPA, and this is nothing but what was that? One more feature we were having: letter of recommendation, statement of purpose, right? And then whether the research done or not. So all these are input features. And from all those input features, it was expected that our model should go and it should predict the chance of the admission of the person to get the admission in foreign university for masters. Okay, just a minute here. Yeah, sorry. So see everyone, what I am telling you is you can see that here you are entering the values in Jupyter Notebook. Right, but are we going to ask the client to do this like this? No, it is obviously, I can say that this is not the way we will be asking the client to enter the values. Right. So, client should be provided with some front end where a person, whether he is a technical, from technical background, non-technical background, right? Whatever it may be, everyone should be able to make use of the application or the model which we created here. This is what we want. So for that, as I told you in the last session, that we will be creating the web application. Now to create the web application, this Jupyter notebook is not sufficient. We will need something like some IDE, something called as PyCharm or VS Code. Those kind of IDEs we will require here to create a web application. So that is what I am going to show you now yesterday. Yesterday, based on yesterday what we have discussed, right? So I am going to make use of this particular model everyone. This file. So obviously you should be having this particular file. If you don't have this file, don't worry. I'll be sharing one link as I told you. Just a minute. Let me share it in the group itself. You can go. You can download it. Obviously, this is for those people who are interested to go and try out the hands-on. Obviously, you should be joining from your laptop or your desktop. Mobile phones will not work. Right? You cannot do it on mobile phone. Obviously. I don't know how many people have joined from desktop or laptop, right? But yes, you will need desktop or laptop for this particular thing, because this will be an end-to-end application which we are going to develop here. But for that, what are we going to require, everyone? We are going to require this particular model, the model which we created in the last session. That model we are going to require. So, just a minute. Let me share the link. I have uploaded the file on the drive, and I'm just sharing that particular link with you in the group. So maybe once you get in the group, everyone, what you can do is you can send it to your email ID and you can download everyone. Again, those who are interested to go and try out the application. See everyone, I said in the WhatsApp group, you can check it. Prediction of chance of admission. That application I sent it to you. Okay, whatever the files which are required to run that particular application on your machine, all the files are shared. You will be able to download all those files from that particular link. As I told you, those who were present yesterday, I think they will get the point, whatever I am talking about. Those who are not there, maybe don't know whether you people are also recording the recordings or not. Okay, so see everyone, I will go. You can go and you can check in the WhatsApp group. I shared the link everyone. You please check it. Now that file I am going to open. What am I going to do is this model, whatever we created in the last session. Now that model I am going to make use of, and I am going to create an end-to-end application. The purpose was to show you what happens in real time. Right? Many people ask whether we should go with the Jupyter, we should go with the Atom, we should go with the Jupyter Lab, we should go with, let's say, Google Colab, or what? There are a lot of things, lot of tools which are available to run the Python code, but every tool has a specific purpose. You cannot develop an end-to-end application in a notebook like Jupyter. Jupyter kind of a notebook is good for, let's say, analysis, or maybe for running your code line by line. But here you cannot develop an end-to-end application, and there we need something like IDE, and that's why everyone I am going to make use of PyCharm as the IDE, right? So whatever the values which we are passing here, this is nothing but what? This is GRE score. This is nothing but what? TOEFL score, right? Then this is nothing but university rating, right? Then statement of purpose, and then this letter of recommendation, and then this is nothing but CGPA, and whether the research done or not. So if you people remember, again those who were present yesterday, right? If you people remember, these are the input columns which we were having in the last, like in the last session we have seen this. Now, are we going to ask the client to enter the inputs like this? No, not at all. That's why what I am going to do is I will be making use of that finalized_model.pickle file, but I will be creating an end-to-end application. Yesterday, everyone, I showed you on cloud. Same application which I have showed you on cloud. Now I will be running that particular application on my machine, on my local machine. If you also want to run it, you just go to the WhatsApp group. I have shared the link with you. Send that link to your email and then download that particular file onto your machine. If someone is like trying to run that, you just ask me, right? You can share on screen maybe, or maybe I will tell you the steps how to run it. You follow me. If you face any difficulty, please let me know, right? And when that is done, then we will go to logistic regression and other algorithms, and then maybe in the coming sessions we will go for end-to-end projects also. But everyone, as I told you, linear regression, even though it required time, but I tried to cover almost all the things generally which we require in other algorithms also. Okay, so I am going to show you that now how to create an end-to-end application. For that, what are you going to require, everyone? I am again telling you that I will be using this file which we already created. This is our trained model, everyone. This is our trained model. Okay, this is the model which I am going to make use of. Now I will go to the folder and I will try to show you the file which I sent it to you. Okay, you can see, everyone, this is the file I shared with you. This one, ML for cloud deployment, Heroku, LR or ITM. LR is the thing with linear regression. So what you need to do is just right click here and extract it. Okay, once you extract it, you will be able to see this folder. Everyone, this folder you will be able to see ML for cloud deployment. Just go inside this. Now see what I have done. The file which we created yesterday, that file I put here, everyone. That particular file I put here. I am again repeating. Maybe those people who joined late, I am again repeating that all these files are already shared with you people in the WhatsApp group. You just need to go download it. Those who are interested to run this on their machine, you try to run it. Let me know if you face any difficulty. We will solve that. If someone is already aware about what is an environment, how to run the projects in case of Jupyter Notebook, right? You can do it, no problem at all. But those who are not aware about, you can always ask or put your questions in the WhatsApp group also. Maybe later on I can go to that and I will let you know. If like you can even share the screenshots also. There are certain steps everyone which you need to follow. See, the important thing was to create the model. We already created the model. The model is ready now. The model is ready, but how to make use of that particular model in real time? One cannot ask a client to go to Jupyter Notebook and enter the inputs like this. No, not at all. Maybe like a person who is not non-technical, he might not be aware about what is Jupyter, right? So you cannot ask like this. And that's why we want an end-to-end application which even one can go and one can deploy. The deployed application I already shown it to you yesterday. Yesterday only I shared the link in the chat box and many people have replied, right? They were able to use that. So see everyone, now what you need to do is once you have extracted the file which I have shared with you, you will be able to find out this file, finalize_model.pickle file. This is the file which we created yesterday. Okay, and now what I am going to do is, and along with that you are able to see other folders like static folder, templates folder. These are the folders where we have actually written some HTML code because I want front end, I want back end. So what I have done is for front end, I use HTML and for back end I use HTML like SQL library database. It's a lightweight database. It means it is going to store the data only for temporary purpose. Okay, and again it is really very easy to connect to that particular database with the help of Python. But this is an example everyone. One can actually try out the same thing in other examples like for other algorithms also. Okay. So see, static folder is going to have CSS, cascading style check. This is not the thing which we need to worry about. Obviously there will be a separate person for that. But again this is not difficult. And then this templates folder, these are standards folder everyone. These are all standard folders. So base.html, index.html, result.html, all these are nothing but the HTML files which are going to be used for front end. And this is my main file. app.py is my main file, and this training.py is nothing but some imports we have done. And proc file and requirement.txt, these are all the files which we require for deployment. Okay, these are for deployment. And these files are created whenever you run the project. See how to run it. If you have PyCharm installed on your machine, right? On the first day itself, I told you that I'll be going with two tools. Like in my case, I'll be making use of Jupyter Notebook instead of Jupyter. If someone is aware about something else, definitely you can go with that, no problem at all. And I will be going with PyCharm, right? This is what PyCharm is, right? This is the icon, or maybe in your case there might be some different icon in latest version. So the alternative to this one is VS Code also can be used, or Spider also can be used. Okay, there are a lot of other tools also, but generally I prefer using these two, PyCharm and VS Code. Spider, I've seen that it is going to crash depending on the size of the data. That's why I do not prefer that. Anyway, so whether it's a machine learning model, deep learning model, computer vision model, or NLP model, you can use PyCharm or VS Code. That will work fine. So you work with the machine learning algorithms, you work with data science algorithms, or you work with deep learning frameworks like TensorFlow, PyTorch. Yes, this is going to work fine. And that's why I'm saying that yes, one can go with PyCharm or VS Code. Anyway, everyone, what you need to do is just right click here inside this particular folder and open folder as a PyCharm community addition. If someone is already having PyCharm installed in their case, but they are not able to see this particular option, don't worry. You open PyCharm and go to file, and then from file browse to the location where you have put this particular project. Okay, all these project files wherever you have put, just go through that. Just browse that and select it. That's it. That also is another way to open the file. I don't know how many people are trying. If no one is trying, no problem at all. You try it later on. Let me know if you face any doubt, any question. Obviously, if you are interested. Okay. So let us open this and let me show you what you need to do. Okay, those people who will try to do all these things later on. Okay, so maybe I think you can follow this. I think recordings are also there, so definitely if you are interested to run it, you can always follow this. I will show you how to set up everything. It is easy, everyone. Installation of PyCharm is also easy. It is just like you need to download a executable file, exe file, and you need to just double click on that and next and finish. It is not difficult. Many of you might be having it already installed on your machine. Okay. So see everyone, you can see that this is the folder I shared with you. Okay. In the WhatsApp group, this is the folder I shared with you. Now inside this folder, you will be able to find out all these files and folders: static folder, templates folder, app.py file, and this is our model. See, finalize_model.pickle, and then proc file requirement.txt and train.py. So all these things you'll be able to find out in that particular folder. I will double click on app.py. Let me tell you one more time what is the user feature of this folder. Static and templates are the standard folders. They will take care for front end. If you want to go with XML, HTML, or maybe some other front end technology, you can. Okay. So you can use. You can see here we have used base.html. This is the HTML code. This is very easy, everyone. I told you already that you don't have to worry about it. That is not our job to write down the HTML, XML code. But if someone is aware about it, that is good. And even if someone is not aware about it, don't worry, it is easy. Even you can go and you can take the HTML code from any other web page and just make it changes. That's also possible for sure. Then index.html. Okay, so we will be able to see all these options to enter GRE score, profile score, university rating, statement of purpose, letter of recommendation, CGPA, and whether the research is done or not. Those who understood the data set well yesterday, I hope you are getting it. And then finally we are going to display the results. See, in Jupyter we were able to see the result like this. Okay, this was our result, right? This is our accuracy. This is what happening in case of the Jupyter notebook. But same thing we will be doing actually, but here with the help of front end and the back end, right? So we'll be displaying the result, so that your chance of the admission is something like this. Okay, something percent. And then this is our main file again. This is .py file. It means it's a Python file. It means it's a Python file. Okay. Now, before going and just explaining you this particular code, and again this train.py, no need to write down this particular file separately. I would have written it inside this particular thing only. But anyway, one can write down it separately also. This is a very simple code, even very basic code with try and except. We have used actually just to handle exceptions. And we have used one framework here, and that is nothing but Flask. So what is the role of the Flask? I will tell you. Don't worry if you are not aware about it, you will be able to understand this. So everyone, the first thing which you need to take care is you need to come up with an environment. You need to create an environment before going and running this particular project or application on your machine. You need to go and you need to create the environment. Now, how to create the environment? What is an environment? Even I am talking about this particular thing. Okay, so I am talking about this one, environment. Model is trained. Model is trained. Okay, we just going to make the things easier for the client or the users, let's say, with the help of an application. Okay, so first thing we need to do is create an environment. So how to create the environment? So for creating the environment in PyCharm as well as in VS Code, same thing. Go to file option. Okay, go to this particular file option here. So and then go to settings. Okay, and here you will be able to find out some options to select. See project interpreter. See here project interpreter. And once you click on this project interpreter, click on this setting button. See this one. I will just try to highlight that here. Okay, you click on this, and once you click on that particular setting button here, we'll be able to see option like show all and add. Now in my case, number of project interpreters I have already created, so I will show you how to create a new one. Just go to this add, click on this add, and see now you have option. If you have plain Python installed in your case, you go with virtual environment. Or otherwise, you have Conda environment like me, you go with this. Let's say I will go with this Conda environment. And here you just give some name for the environment. So in my case, I have given this particular name for the environment. You can select Python version. Okay, I have created this particular application in Python 3.7. Maybe you can go with the latest like 3.9 or 3.8 also. No problem at all. And simply say OK. Now in my case, this OK button is inactive because this particular name is already used. If you really want to see it, see if I go and if I change this name, now see this OK button is activated. But as I have already created, so I will not create the environment once again. So just go and click on OK and it will create the environment. Now how to confirm that environment is created? Just go to this particular option, everyone, terminal. Either in PyCharm, VS Code, same thing, everyone, same thing. So one can go and one can check this particular option like terminal. Once you go to the terminal, then you will be able to see environment name if it is created properly. Okay, so in my case you will be able to see some name of the environment. Maybe in new versions you might not be able to see some names, but if it is not showing any error, no problem. Okay, so now see everyone, I am using a base environment. Okay, I am using a base environment, no problem at all. You can select anything. Okay, so see, this is nothing but base environment. By default, actually, it is base environment only. So you can see that this is the environment. What is environment, everyone? Environment is like a clean slate. Environment is like a clean slate. I mean to say, it's like, see, one thing you always remember, for a separate project, there is always a separate environment. As I told you that environment is like a clean slate. That means there is no extra packages installed in an environment. Let's say suppose if you are working on a project related to healthcare domain. So why to install the packages related to finance domain? We don't require those packages. Why to have extra overhead? So environment is like a clean slate. Whatever is required, only those things we go and we install. So that's why for a separate project, you will find out that we always have a separate environment or environment people call it as. Okay. So anyway, it is there in my case. You can see base environment is also fine, no problem at all. Now, once it is created, what you need to do, everyone? You need to enter this command. Hyphen requirements.txt file. Now, what is this requirement.txt file in this one? Now, who created it? We created it. Then, once all the packages are installed one by one properly, what we have done at the end is we created this particular file, requirement.txt file. What is the use of this particular file? The use of this particular file is that if I want to run the same application on some another platform, maybe on some another machine, so I don't have to write down all the packages individually. What I'll do is I will fire this command pip install -r requirement.txt. How this particular file is created? As I told you, this particular file is created at the end of the project development. How? This is the command pip install greater than sign, okay, and then requirements.txt file. Not compulsory that you should be giving the same name, but this is it's a standard practice. We make use of this particular name. Okay, pip install greater than sign requirement.txt. What is this, everyone? Maybe those people who are aware about Linux command, basic Linux commands, then you might be knowing that this is called as output redirector. Output redirector. Okay, so whatever we have installed in this particular environment, we are simply redirecting it to this particular file. So in the requirement.txt file, what will happen is you will be able to see all the packages and their versions. See like this. Whatever the packages and with their versions, whatever we are used here in this particular application, everything you will be able to see only in one file. So what will happen because of this? You don't have to go and install all the packages individually. Just go and run that particular command. Okay, and that's it. Once that is done, now how to run this particular project, everyone, just check it out. Yesterday, same thing I showed it to you on the cloud. If you people remember, I shared the link with you yesterday, and there I showed it to you, everyone, that user is going to enter some inputs, right? User is going to enter some input, GRE score, TOEFL score, and so on. So the same thing, but it was running in, it was running where actually, everyone? It was running on cloud. Okay, that was running on cloud. Now what I'll be doing is, I'll be going and I'll be showing you the same application, but on the local machine. See now. Go to this app.py, okay, and I will try to run this. Go to run. And let's run this. See, I am again telling you, everyone, you will also be able to run this particular application on your local machine. It teaches that first of all you need to download the file which I have shared with you, and then the steps which I told you. Create the environment, right? The way I have shown you, and then if it is showing some error require for some package requirement, just go and just install the package with the help of pip install and name of the package command. Okay. See now, everyone, I got this particular link, right? I got this link. So simply go here and copy this and just paste that particular link here, and you will be able to see something similar to what we have seen yesterday. But that was on local, that was on cloud actually, and this is running on my local machine. See, everyone, I can go and I can write down the same input. See, what was this? GRE score, TOEFL score, right? University rating, statement of purpose, letter of recommendation, CGP, and whether the research done or not. Same thing I am doing it here. Now, this kind of a thing anyone can make use of. You just share the link with that particular person, and yes, we'll be able to see the same thing, right? Whatever I shared with you yesterday, everyone, it was a cloud. That was cloud. Just let me show you. Whatever you are able to see right now, this is local machine. See, 127.0.0.1 is the thing, but your local host, and 5000 is the thing, but the port number. So what I can do, here is I can show you both. See, this is what I have shared with you again, right? Heroku login, because in my case I have already deployed the application onto Salesforce.com cloud, Heroku cloud. So that's why you were able to use that particular application from your place, from your device. Okay, so this was a thing. Like I will show you. The yesterday whatever I shared, that was also doing the same thing, and this is also doing the same thing. See here, this is the cloud salesforce.com. Okay, anyone can go and anyone can create the account. It is free for 2 years, and they provide you 500 MB of space for free. So see again, this is the link which I have shared with you. Okay, this is the link which I shared with you. So if I also go here and I also try to check out with that particular link, I'll be able to see something similar to this. You can check it. Okay, once again I will just simply share this with other people also. You can check this out. This link you will be able to use, but localhost link whatever I have, you will not be able to use that. See everyone, see this one you will not be able to use. So I will go and I will enter the values 312 out of 340 in GRE. In TOEFL, let's say out of 120, 110 marks someone has got. University rating out of 5 is 4. Statement of purpose is 4 out of 5. Letter of recommendation 4 out of 5. CGPA out of 10 is, let's say, 8 out of 10. And here the research is done. And then go and predict. So everyone, the file which I have shared with you is having all these things. You just need to go and try out and let me know if you face any difficulty in that. Okay. So this is running on the local machine. You can see port number 5000, and yes, 7% means 70% actually. So you can go and even we can multiply it by 10 in the code, and you will be able to understand that. So see, this is the application. But the thing is that here we have used only linear regression, right? Because we have seen only linear regression, algorithm we have seen. But one can make use of other algorithms also if someone is aware of it. And in real time, we actually make use of more than one algorithm. We never depend only on one algorithm. We always go and we always try to make use of more than one.
बँकेत नाही पोस्ट राहते का मॅडम शुभांगी मॅडम विचारलं का तुम्ही
Okay, I think I can. Someone has muted me, just a minute.
Yogesh sir, please unmute yourself.
Yes, I unmuted, sir. I have someone else unmuted me actually.
Okay, fine.
Am I audible, Vishal, sir?
Yes, sir, you are audible. Please continue.
Yes. Okay, everyone. So I hope you are getting my point.
So
At least,
just
are you
1 minute.
getting what
All
we
the
need to do? Yeah.
it is request to participant. Please mute yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. Sir, please continue. Sorry, sir.
Everyone, can you just reply me? Are you getting my point? Like the steps which we have, at least the steps. Because see, if you just spend some time with this particular thing, you will be able to understand. Just go and try out this. Today you try, maybe tomorrow you can come up with the questions. If you face some difficulty, those who are able to do it, that is fine. Why am I telling you this one, everyone? Because the file which I will be sharing with you, let's say the next topic which we will be discussing is logistic regression for classification problems now. Now, in case of logistic regression, again, I will give you the Jupyter file as well as this kind of application I will be giving you, where the model is already trained. What you need to do is you just need to follow all these steps. Go create the environment, and install the necessary packages if they are there, right? And if with the help of this requirement of txt file, and if they are not installing for some packages, if it is showing some error, go and install them separately. How to install the package, everyone? Here, just go to terminal and here you fire the command pip install. This is the terminal actually, right? So this is my environment. In this environment, I will be installing all the packages which I require for this particular project. Okay, for this particular project. Now, let me go and let me show you what is the thing how this particular code is actually written. Let me just go through this again. It's a basic Python. See, as I told you, this is my app.py. Okay, this is my app.py. This is my main file everywhere. This is my main file. App.py, main.py. One can write it down the way you want. You can use any name. Okay, I have given app.py. Now here, what's going to happen is app.py, this is my Python code. Here I have done all the import part first, okay? But whatever I have written here, the first thing which compiler always looks out for is this line. If underscore underscore name underscore underscore equal to underscore underscore main underscore underscore. Now what is this? Always remember whatever the things which start with two underscores and end with two underscores in case of Python, those are nothing but built-in methods in case of Python. And whenever we have actually used classes and objects, or I can say I have used objects here. Okay, so what we have done is we simply use a built-in method here, and compiler always looks out for this particular method. So that's why I am saying that this is the starting point again. And now here, as soon as it gets this particular line, now here it is able to see something like app.run. Now compiler has read all these things line by line. Now app.run. So app is what? So for this, it will control will go to here anyway. Control will come here. App. What is app? App is an object of the type Flask. App is an object of the type Flask. Now, how am I able to make use of this particular Flask method here? Because I have already imported this particular thing. Okay, I already imported package. That package I have already installed. That is nothing but Flask. Okay, and because of that, I am able to make use of this particular method. So see, what we have done is underscore underscore name underscore underscore equal to underscore underscore main underscore underscore. Now, with the help of that particular name, we are just trying to create an object of the type Flask here. That is nothing but app. So we given the name as app to this particular method. Okay, this particular object. Right? Initializing the Flask app. So this is our Flask app. And now, as I told you, if someone is not aware about the Flask, don't worry. See this line from Flask import Flask render template and request and JSONify. So what are we doing is we are going and we are going to request some data. So we are using this particular package. Okay, JSONify because we are using JSON type of file, key value pair, dictionary, and render template is going to be used.
हो पण ते फाईन करून घ्यायला लागतं ना मला
And
आता घेऊन जाणार
मी 4 लाख निघणार आहे कधी वरती सरांची तुम्ही तर सबमिट करायच्या प्राचार्यांची परमिशन घ्यायची असं मला एचओडी म्हटलं म्हणून मी आली आहे
पण एक 15 मिनिट आधी तर येऊन गेट पास घ्यायचा बघायचा एक सांगून टाइम घ्यायची
ओके
असेल
मला सर काय म्हटलं की सरांच्या परमिशन घेतल्यानंतर प्रोसिजर तुम्ही करून ठेवा 4 ला जाऊ शकता मला माहित नाहीये मी पहिल्यांदाच चालली
प्रोसिजर 10 मिनिटं करायची बाकी गेट पास आता तुम्ही बुक
सर आले
ओके हा ते असं बुक मेंटेन आहे का मी मला प्रोसिजरच माहित नाही हॅवंट डन इट बिफोर त्याला सरांची परमिशन लागते प्राचार्यांची
सरांचे आज जाऊन तुम्ही सही घ्यायची त्याच्यावर
ओके मग त्याला आधी 4च्या आधी 10-15 मिनिटं यावं लागतं
विशाल सर आले there. Sonal madam, can you mute? Hello. Sonal madam, can you mute? Sonal Dugale madam, can you mute? Just a minute, everyone. Let me give him a call. I think he will be able to. Just a minute, all the participants.
सर रास्ता नाही आहे नेट म्हणजे इथं नाही आहेत का तिकडे आहेत? मला हे डॉक्युमेंट सबमिट करायचं होतं तर ते उद्याच यायला लागेल.
Yes, I think I called the organizer. Actually, he is going to mute. Just a minute. Maybe I think by mistake she is in. Okay, fine. Fine. Thank you, Vishal. Okay, let's continue. See, so I was telling you that like this is what I have imported everything, right? And Flask underscore core is what? Now see, when I will deploy the application onto cloud, right? So the thing which I have shown you yesterday also, right? So if my application in some, right now let's say my application is some network, okay? This is where my application is. App.py is my application, let's say. Now, when it will be deployed onto cloud, what I want is, it is in one network, but I want some person from some another network, people from some other network also should have access to this particular application. So that will be taken care by something called as CORS and cross origin. This will take care for platform, cross platform. Okay. This will take care for cross platform. A person from some other network, right, will also be able to make use of your application, and that is possible with the help of CORS and cross underscore origin. And pickle package I already told you everyone. Our model is nothing but see is COD.pickle extension. So just to load it, just to unpickle it, we make use of this pickle. Okay, and because of the Flask now, as we created this app, so our app is divided into different routes or different routes. So something like this. App.py is my application. This is divided into different routes. The first route is this, and the next route is like inside like below this one only. There is one route, and that is nothing but predict/predict. Our application is divided like this. So when you will go and when you will click on the link, actually you will be able to see something like this. So let's say if I go on that, so see you will be able to see this particular page, days.html. So this is / first step, and as and when I go and I click on predict, it will go to which route? See again, you will be able to see it will go to predict route. So it is possible because of this particular Flask package. See, this / is there. So what it is rendering? It is rendering or outputting index.html page, and we want this route to be accessible by everyone. That's why we are using @cross_origin, and we are creating a function, Python function here, which is just simply rendering index.html page, which is here, right? And as and when one clicks on predict button, it will go to this particular route, and this route is going to also accept the data. See, get and post method, both of these methods actually accept the data. The difference between these two methods is post is more secured as compared to get. Like if I want to give an example, let's suppose if I want to give example for get and post method, everyone, let's see if I go to Flipkart. Okay, if I go to Flipkart, flipkart.com if I do, and if I try to search about, let's say, iPhone. Now see, I will go and I will just click on this button. Now whatever I searched, iPhone, you will be able to see that particular thing here. Just take it again, iPhone, right? But so as you can see that whatever the keyword which I have searched, right, whatever the text which I typed, you can see here iPhone, right? So this is nothing but get method. Okay, this is nothing but get method. But let's suppose if I go and if I try to log into my email ID, you will not be able to see my email ID password, right? You will be able to see some markers, or it will be hidden. That is nothing but post method again, right? That is a good example to understand the difference between what is a post and get method. So post method is more secured as compared to get. So in the first route, what are we doing is simply rendering this particular page, and as and when user clicks on predict button, and then it will go to predict root. This is also another root which we also want it to be accessible by all the people from different network. And here we are defining the function called as index. So if the request dot method is post, and yes, it is going to be post. See everyone, one way I try to show you is with the help of this particular UI, right, user interface. But again, that is not the only way with the help of which one can go and one can run the application. There is another way also with the help of something called as Postman. One can make use of a tool called as Postman, where what we can do is we can simply send the request to this particular application without creating UI. That is also possible. So in many data science teams, generally they do not have that much of time. So what they do is they make use of a tool called as Postman, something like this. I will show you. In my case, it's already there. Saved in this one. Postman is a very lightweight tool. Sending the request from the Postman is very fast. It is very fast, and that's why generally in real time we use it. Okay. So why we use it? Just to go and test our applications or the models. So that's why even you will find out that testers are required in case of data science team also, or developers also do the same thing many times, because once the application is done, you need to test it. So you can go and you can send the request to the application with the help of Postman. Okay, and then it is going to reply. So maybe even this one also I can show it to you, right? But again, we will not go that way. We will just try to cover the algorithms, other algorithms in. Okay, that is also can be shown. One way I already shown it to you. Everyone, you can see that this is how I can go and I can run the application with the help of UI, user interface, right? So if the request is in if the method is post method, yes, it is a post method, and that's why it will go in try block. I hope you are aware about basic Python. And then here we are accepting all the inputs from the form, that form, right, which we created. That is nothing but this particular form, this form, HTML form I can say. And here, from here we are accepting the GRE score, TOEFL score, university rating, segment of purpose, letter of recommendation, CGPA, research, and whether the research done or not, yes or no. If yes, then 1, if no, then 0, right? So you can see that all those values we are simply storing in these variables. And then what are we doing here even? File name equal to finalize underscore modular pickle, and we are simply doing pickle.load. Open file name. File name is this. The same way which we have done in case of Jupyter Notebook in the last session yesterday. You can see same thing I have done. File name is equal to finalize underscore model.pickle, and I am opening that particular file in right and binary mode. Binary is nothing but executable mode. That's what I am doing, executable mode. Right. So if you go here and we are just creating object pickle.load, open that particular file in read and binary mode, and then loaded underscore model.predict, and here we are passing all these values. GRE score, TOEFL score, see, same thing whatever we have done in case of Jupyter Notebook. Let's check it out. Same thing we are doing. And then simply predicting. So prediction result we are storing in this particular variable, and then we are simply printing this prediction is whatever the value we got here with the help of model, and simply then we are simply going and rendering the result. Render underscore template result.html. Here we are rendering that particular result, and because of which we are able to see this particular page. This one. This is the result page. Your chance for admission is this much of percentage. See, you can check it out here. So prediction, we are rounding it. Maybe I can go and I can multiply with 100, and then I can get the result. So I am simply going and predicting it. So result.html, if you really want to see it here, see, your chance for admission is prediction. And what is the value of the prediction? The value of the prediction you will get from that particular file. That is here itself. We got the value of the prediction. We are simply going and using it. Right, everyone? So rendering means outputting. And if there is exception, we are printing that particular exception. Maybe in your case, everyone, those will try, maybe you will get some exception, don't worry, it will be solved easily. Right? It will give some exception like this, otherwise it will give you the first page index.html. And that's it, everyone. This is your application. Train.py is nothing but just imports, nothing else. Requirement.txt, I told you how to create it. Proc file you require if you want to go and deploy your application onto some cloud platform. So for cloud, you need to make use of some web server, and generally the default web server which is available on the cloud is nothing but gunicorn, and that's what I am giving. And web:/gunicorn app:/app. It is nothing but our application is a web application which we want to create we want the cloud to tell that our application is going to be a web application, and we use this particular web server, that is nothing but GUnicorn. Okay. Okay, everyone. So I hope that's what the point is, that this is how actually one can go and one can create the application. From your end, everyone, what you need to do is you just need to go and try out that particular application and just try to do the same thing whatever I am telling you. And let me know if you face any difficulty. Maybe tomorrow also you can let me know. I hope maybe many of you will try it out and then let me know. Because see, as I told you, now the next algorithm, as we start with, we are going to start with let's say logistic regression. Same steps you apply. And even I told you, right, it is not compulsory that you should also go with the PyCharm. You can go and we can make use of VS Code also. Or otherwise, if you are good with any other IDE, yes, you can go and you can use that other IDE also. No problem at all. One can make use of other IDE. Okay. So I think in case of PyCharm, let me. Okay, everyone. So this is our linear regression model application. Actually, this is what shows us finally. So just download that zip file and maybe just try it out in your case and let me know if you face any difficulty. I am again repeating, everyone, those who joined late, already shared the link for that particular application in the WhatsApp group. Now next thing, I will go to the next algorithm and we will start with the next one, next basic algorithm, and that is nothing but logistic regression. But before moving to that particular algorithm, everyone, let me tell you, please remember that, like I think yesterday 2-3 people were asking some questions through WhatsApp. So again they were asking same thing, like how to decide which algorithm to use. It is not fixed even. In real time actually we use more than one algorithm. At least 5 to 6 algorithms we use at a time. Only for, like, if you want to go and if you want to create some model. So for one model itself, for creating one model itself, we use 5 to 6 algorithms at a time. So it's not like that. If this is the case, if this type of data is there, then you use this particular algorithm. No, it depends on data also. It depends on whatever problem you want to solve, right? And what is the expected output you want, right? And other parameters are also there. And that's why we never depend only on one algorithm. We always go and we always try to develop the model with at least 5 to 6 algorithms, at least 5 to 6. So same thing now, I am going to talk about logistic regression. If you people feel that you already are aware about logistic regression, please let me know. We can go with the other algorithms also. Like there are 10 to 12 algorithms in it. But linear and logistic regression are the algorithms which are basic algorithm, but important because many times you will see that other algorithms will be based on this. Right? That is the thing. Or maybe they might be using the concepts related to these algorithms. That's how we start with this. And yesterday only I asked those people who were there, right? Like if you just try to put questions in the chat box so that I will come to know, and accordingly I will be moving and talking about the things. Okay, everyone. So next thing which we are going to discuss about is logistic regression. So in case of linear regression, we started with theory part. We have seen some mathematics behind that, right? Detailed mathematics is given the notes, everyone. And we finally tried to train the model for some data set. We have done data cleaning, data pre-processing, visualization, everything we have done, right? And finally, we came up with a model, dot pickle model. And in case of machine learning, as I told you that it is not necessary that every time you should go and you should try to solve a model with dot pickle extension only. One can go and one can use dot SAD also. Maybe in logistic regression, you will be able to find out. Now, logistic regression is somewhat important here because we will find out that here, first thing is logistic regression is used for classification types of problems. Linear regression is used only for prediction types of problems. When I was explaining you types of machine learning, right? At that time only I told you that one can go and one can solve different types of problems with the help of different machine learning approaches, right? Like supervised, unsupervised, semi-supervised, and reinforcement. So in case of supervised learning, we can solve prediction types of problems and classification types of problems. Now to solve prediction types of problems, we have different algorithms. and to solve classification types of problems also we have different algorithms. But the thing is that in case of, let's say, prediction, so in case of linear regression can be used only for prediction. Logistic regression can be used only for classification. So this is the first algorithm which we will be talking about for solving classification type of problem. But before going and talking about this particular algorithm, everyone, you need to understand some of the things. Because if you try to create a classification model, you need to go and you need to evaluate that model also, right? So for and for evaluation, whatever we will be talking about here in case of classification or here in case of logistic regression, whatever the things which we will be talking about for evaluation of the classification model, same things one need to apply for other algorithms also. Okay, so something like confusion matrix. Generally, I have seen people who are confused about confusion matrix. So we will try to understand it in a simple way with a very simple example. But still, if you people feel that you already know this, please let me know in the chat box. Fine, everyone. So logistic regression, we will start with. As I told you already that in my notes, every time you will be able to see this particular flow. Right? I show you, I explained this particular flow on the first day itself. This is nothing but life cycle diagram for machine learning model. So you create a machine learning model. Whenever you go and you create it, more or less you will be able to find out similar steps which will be followed. Okay, steps might be here and there, but yes, somewhat similar steps we will be able to follow in all the algorithms to create the model, whatever may be the algorithm. So logistic regression is one of the most fundamental algorithms for classification in machine learning model. Okay, as like linear regression, but logistic regression can be used for classification types of problems. See everyone now. In linear regression, the type of data we deal with is quantitative. I hope you understand what do you mean by quantitative data and qualitative data. Qualitative data is nothing but, for example, categorical data is the example of qualitative data, like gender column. Everyone. In gender column, we have two values. Let's say male, female. So gender column is a categorical, right? We have only two values, male, female. Let's say. So categorical data. Passenger class, first class, second class, third class. Categorical data. Yesterday also we have seen. So in linear regression, type of data was quantitative, whereas for classification models we use qualitative or categorical data. Okay. So again, this also comes under supervised learning approach, right? Because label is given, data will be labeled, and what is the label? What is the labeled data? We already seen that very well. So whenever there is a labeled data, one can go and one can solve that type of problem with the help of supervised learning. So the algorithms used for solving classification problems, what they do is they make use of probability actually. They first predict the probability of each of the categories of the qualitative variables, right? And then whatever the probability is greater, actually the record belongs to that particular class. So in short, what I can say is logistic regression makes use of concept of probability. Now that's why there is a question, why don't we use linear regression for classification problem? See everyone, why one cannot use linear regression to solve classification type of problem? Why? Because let's suppose you have this kind of a data. You have a class where we have values satisfied, neutral, and not satisfied. So obviously it's a categorical data. Let's say we have a column where we have this particular values satisfied, neutral, and not satisfied. Now what is shown here, everyone? For satisfied 2 is shown, for neutral 1 is shown, and for not satisfied 0 is shown. Why is it so? Simple thing, I told you yesterday that before going and passing any data as an input to any machine learning algorithm, one need to make sure that the data should be numeric format. And that's why you can assign any numerical value. Like in case of binary classes, like there are only two classes, binary means 2. It is okay, 0, 1. But here it is more than 2 classes, satisfied, neutral, and not satisfied. So if one tries to give the values like this, 2, 1, 0 or 1, 2, 0 or 0, 1, 2, whatever it may be, no problem at all. One can give any value to this thing. The ultimate aim is to convert them into numbers. But if someone tries to convert this particular data into numerical format, what will happen because of this is this is totally going to change the meaning of that particular data. So maybe it might be something like this. It means that satisfied is greater than neutral, or neutral is greater than satisfied, or not satisfied is less than satisfied, and so on. See, that's why one can go and one can have this kind of labels also. But the thing is that there is no mathematical significance between these mappings, so they should not be treated like this. And that's why if you choose any one of these mappings, and if you apply linear regression to both the types of mappings, you will be getting the set of predictions, and those predictions will be like this area 1.2, 0.8, 2.3. But probability of prediction cannot be greater than 1. I hope everyone is aware about that. Basic thing about probability, basic rule is that probability value cannot be greater than 0, cannot be less than 0 and greater than 1. P value always lies between 0 and 1. Probability always lies between 0 and 1. And we also know that addition of all the probabilities is always going to be what, everyone? It is always going to be 1. This is the basic, these are the basic rules about probability. So what happens is, if one tries to make use of linear regression to solve these types of problems, classification types of problems, what will happen is, you might get the values of the probabilities like this, and which is not going to make any sense. So there is no normal method to convert qualitative data into quantitative data for using linear regression. Right? Although for binary class classification, right, when there are two categorical values, in that case, yeah, to some extent it can work, but always it is not going to work. For classification problem, if you try to make a linear regression, this is what is going to happen, and that's why for prediction problems, linear regression, for classification problems, linear regression cannot be used. Okay, so basically the idea is, logistic regression makes use of concept of probability to solve classification types of problems, and if you try to make use of your linear regression to solve the classification problem, it is going to violate the probability rule, and that's how one cannot use linear regression to solve classification types of problems. Okay, so that's why logistic regression is there. And now for logistic regression, or for logistic regression also, there is the equation. Like the equation for this linear regression, whatever we have seen everyone, the equation for linear regression was what? Y is equal to mx plus c. Okay. Similarly, what we will try to do is, we will try to go and we will try to come up with the equation of logistic regression also. So why a particular type of equation is there for logistic regression? We will see that. The equation for linear regression was something like this: y is equal to mx plus c, where m is slope, right, and c is the y-intercept. Y is the output, x is the input. Or actually we have used something like this, right? Y is equal to b0 plus b1x, or beta 0 plus beta 1x, something like this, where b1 is the slope and b0 is the y-intercept. X is the input, y is the output. So in case of logistic regression, as you can read it here everyone later on, see, this is the equation of linear regression which we have seen, y is equal to beta 0 plus beta 1x. In case of logistic regression, as it makes use of probability, right? So we know that probability value should always lie between 0 and 1, and that's why there is a function which is used in case of logistic regression, and that is nothing but sigmoid function. Right? See, now like there are more than 13 to 14 functions which are available. Okay, so sigmoid function is one of those. So logistic regression actually makes use of sigmoid function. So sigmoid function is something like this: sigma of t is equal to 1 upon 1 plus e raised to power minus t. This is the equation of sigmoid function, and sigmoid function looks like this. Sigmoid function actually looks like this. See, it looks like this. So the value of the sigmoid function is always between 0 and 1. This particular equation will always give you value between 0 and 1, which is the equation of a sigmoid function. That is one main reason why sigmoid function is actually used for logistic regression, because logistic regression makes the probability, and probability value always lie between 0 and 1. And sigmoid function is one which is going to make sure that all the values should lie between 0 and 1. That is one reason why sigmoid function is actually used. Another reason for using sigmoid function is that sigmoid function also makes sure for non-linearity in the data. Okay, so for linear regression, there should be linearity, right? So this will also take care for non-linearity. And the third reason for using sigmoid function for logistic regression is that finding out the derivative of sigmoid function is easy. Now why one should find out the derivative of sigmoid function? Or can anyone tell me what is the practical use of derivative, anyone? Have you come across this? Why, or maybe why we learned about derivatives maybe in school days or college days? Why one have actually topic like derivative in the syllabus. What is the practical use of derivative? Anyone? Why we need this? What derivatives are going to give us? Why we try to find out the derivatives? Why we solve the numericals based on derivatives? What is the practical use? Anyone? Any example? As like I hope many of you at least heard about derivatives, right? So can anyone tell me what is the practical use? What is the application of derivative? Why we learn it? Maybe some of you might be aware about it. Anyone? Why? Why we use derivative? Anyone? Are you getting my question, everyone? At least can you tell me that? Are you getting my question? Why? Why derivative? So that at least I will come to know that you people are there and you are listening. Okay. Why derivatives? What do you think? D by dx of let's say x square is 2x, something like this we have done, right? Simple question I am asking you, even what is the meaning of derivative? Any example? Okay. Are you getting my question? No one? Are you getting my question? Anyone? Why derivatives? No. Okay, I think maybe people might not be able to hear me then, I think. Fine, everyone. I think people are not there, and those who are there, maybe they are not able to reply. Anyway, everyone, just see this. This is what I am asking. As I told you, logistic regression makes use of concept of derivatives. So ask a simple question: what is the use of derivative? Okay, what is the use of derivative? Because if you are not aware about it, I will talk about it. Why derivatives? And why this particular point is taken into consideration for selecting sigmoid function as the equation for logistic regression. That is what I am trying to tell you. But I think it seems that many of you are busy in their own work. Maybe that's why they are not able to reply. Generally for optimization, okay, Abhijit is saying generally for optimization. Optimization of what? Optimization of what? Optimization of what? Optimization of what? Generally for optimization, maybe you can say, but for optimizing what? Okay, so see everyone, derivatives give us minima. Okay, it gives us minima. What we will be doing is, when we will go and when we will find out the accuracy of the model, and let's suppose we find out that the accuracy of the model is not as per the expectation. So what we will do is, we'll try to find out error also. Okay, and this derivative will be used in something called as gradient descent. Okay, gradient descent method. Gradient descent. DSENT. So gradient is nothing but derivative, descent is nothing but decreasing. So something like this. We try to find out the minima of the error, minima or residual of the error. So let's say error is here. When we take the derivative, it will come here. Again we take the derivative, error is decreased further. Again we take the derivative, error is decreased further. Again we take the derivative, error is decreased further. So we go on taking the derivative unless and until there is no further decrease in the error. Let's say if we taken derivative and now we got this particular error here. And after this point, I am trying to take the derivative again and again, but this value is not changing. So this is going to be minima. This is going to be minima. So that is the reason why we go with the derivative. Derivatives are actually found to get the minimum of the residual or minima of the error. That is the usage one. And the equation of sigmoid function, sigma of t is equal to 1 upon 1 plus e raised to power minus t. This is the equation of sigmoid function which is used in case of logistic regression. Why it is used again? One more reason is to find out the derivative of this e raised to power t is easy again. D by dt of e raised to power t is e raised to power t only. If you make it as e raised to power minus t, it will be minus e raised to power minus t. So finding out the derivative of e raised to power t is easy, and that is again one more reason why sigmoid function is actually chosen for logistic regression. Because what's going to happen is, in case of, because of that particular equation everyone see, as this is the equation of sigmoid function, sigma of t is equal to 1 upon 1 plus e raised to power minus t. This is nothing but equation of sigmoid function. Fine. So if we replace this t, actually logistic regression also makes use of linear regression. So if I replace that t with beta 0 plus beta 1 x, why are we doing it like this? Because see, this is also going to give us some output finally, right? It is also going to give us some output. What we can do is, if I go and if I replace that with this, so maybe I from equation 1, what I can do is, I can write down this particular thing like this. 1 upon 1 plus 1 upon e raised to power t, which will give me 1 upon e raised to power t will go here plus 1 and then upon e raised to power t, and finally I can write it down like this. So this e raised to power t will come here, and so it will be e raised to power t divided by 1 plus e raised to power t, right? This is the equation. And now if I go and if I replace this t with beta 0 plus beta 1x divided by 1 plus e raised to power beta 0 plus beta 1x, this is called as equation of logistic regression. Maybe one can go and can take the log and so on. This is called as equation of logistic regression. That is what is shown in the notes, everyone. That is what is shown in the notes. You can check this. See, I told you sigmoid function looks like this. Okay, the sigmoid function always gives you value between 0 and 1. You can check it everywhere. Okay. We use sigmoid function as the underlying logistic function, underlying function in logistic regression, and it is shown like this. So why do we use the sigmoid function? All the reasons I told you. And then sigma of x is equal to e raised to power beta 0 plus beta 1 x divided by 1 plus e raised to power beta 0 plus beta 1 x. Just by replacing that particular t with beta 0 plus beta 1 x. And from that we can come up with the equation of logistic function, something called a logistic function. Just let's see, what are we doing is very simple thing. Sigma of x is equal to 1 upon 1 plus e raised to power minus beta 0 plus beta 1 x. They are getting the equation 1, subtracting LHS RHS from 1, and then we are getting equation 2, and dividing equation 1 by equation 2, and then you get this, and then take the log of both sides, and you see that logit function is linear in terms of x variable, and from that one can come up with even prediction equations and cost function equations also. Now see, if probability of x is less than 0.5, the record belongs to, or the output will be 0, otherwise it is 1. And similarly cost function also. Now what is this cost function telling you, or why the cost function is like this? See everyone, this p of x is nothing but the probability given by our model. Whatever our model is telling, that is the probability. And y is nothing but the original result. So if whatever we are saying and whatever the original thing is, if they are same, then there is cost as 0. See, 1 1 cost is 0, or 0 0 cost is 0. But if they are not same, cost is infinity. And if they are not same, cost should be infinity. That's why this kind of a cost function is actually used in case of logistic regression. But no one is going to ask you all these things. This is just for your reference. And this is a generalized thing. And now see everyone, cost function generalized will look like this. And if you go and if you try to decrease that, if you want to decrease that, go and take a derivative. I already told you derivative is actually found out to find out the minimum of something. Here we will be finding out the minimum of the error. And then whatever the equation we have got here, everyone, this one, log of p of x greater than minus p of x, same thing we are just trying to generalize. See, same thing we are just trying to generalize here. That's what is given. That's what I talked about till now. And multinomial logistic regression. So one important point about logistic regression is it has been suggested or it has been seen that if you have a binary class classification problem, one can go with logistic regression. But generally, if you have a multi-class classification problem, we do not go with logistic regression because there are many other classification models which will be really good, far better as compared to logistic regression, like KNN, NeoBase, XGBoost, right? These are far better algorithms as compared to logistic regression. That's why I told you everyone, even in real time, we will seldom see that linear regression and logistic regression is being used for prediction and classification problems in real time, because there are far better algorithms as compared to this. But the concept which we require from linear and logistic regression, yes, those concepts we require in other algorithms, and that's why we will go with that. Or at least we start with that. Okay, and then talking about learning algorithms, some mathematics is shown here, everyone. Now see, what is this? This is a cost function. E of error of E is nothing but error of h of xn comma y of n. H of xn comma yn. Xn is nothing but input, or h of xn is nothing but the output given for this particular input bar model, and this is the original output. So the error is different between them. So that error is again in linear terms with the log of this particular term. The way we have seen in the previous here in this case, same thing is applied here. Okay, so what are we doing after that? We are taking a derivative of that because we want to decrease the error. That's why we are taking a derivative. And once you take the derivative, you get something like this. And then we just try to generalize all those things by getting this kind of equations. Wi plus 1 equal to Wi minus eta into Ein Wi. So Wi is nothing but original weight, Wi plus is nothing but the new weight. Weight is nothing but the importance. And eta is nothing but learning rate. They should be generally as small as possible. What do you mean by learning rate? Even that means at which rate you are trying to decrease the error. Let's see where the eta is going to come into picture. See, if like this is actually again a part of gradient descent actually. If this is the error, right? Now how much you want to decrease it? You want to decrease it like this, so you need to increase the value of the eta. But eta value generally should be as low as possible. Generally it is 0.05 is what we make it of, or 0.01. The eta value can lie between 0.00001 to 10. Generally we take it as this one or this one. So it should be as small as possible. So it will go like this. Otherwise the error will change like this. From here it will come here. It should not happen. Okay? That's why eta value. Eta is a constant value. And generally it is 0.05. Based on experience, we go and we try to change the value. And now coming to the most important part, that is evaluation of any classification model. Evaluation of any classification model in machine learning. Okay. Yes, fine, minimum. Yeah. Okay. So now see the important thing here, everyone. Just check this particular thing. I hope other people are also able to get it. How to evaluate of any classification model. Again, everyone, this is not only for logistic regression, but this will be for other classification algorithms also. Right? Maybe like KNN, NeoBase, even XGBoost can also be used. Support vector machine also can be used for classification. So whatever the algorithm which will be making use of for classification problems, for those problems with the help of these algorithms, actually, we'll be getting some models. And for evaluating those models, we require all these things. All these things we require. Now see, here, as I told you that accuracy, recall, precision, F1 score, specificity, area under the curve, and receiver operator characteristics. So even these are nothing but some metrics which we make use of to evaluate the model. Okay. So one should not only depend on accuracy to evaluate the model. That's why one should go with recall, precision, F1 score also. But all these things you will be able to find out if you have confusion matrix. And that's how what we will do, everyone. What we will do is we will go and we will try to check out what is or what do you mean by confusion matrix itself. What is the meaning of that particular word confusion matrix? Here if someone is aware about confusion matrix already, if you feel that we are aware about it already, please let me know. Okay. It is something important, right? Confusion matrix is something important, everyone. Now let me show you what is a confusion matrix, and then we will go and then we will try to discuss about what is accuracy, what is precision, what is recall, what is F1 score, what is ROC, what is AUC. So everyone, let me talk about confusion matrix, because once you have a confusion matrix, all the things you can derive from confusion matrix. Okay, so let me talk about this, and then we will go to the notes. So from confusion matrix, everyone, you can derive all these things: accuracy, precision, recall, F1 score, receiver operator characteristics, and area under the curve. All these things one can derive from confusion matrix. So what is the confusion matrix? Let's see that. Let's suppose we have been given the data of 500 patients. Okay. So we have been given the data of 500 patients. Now see everyone, as here we are talking about logistic regression. So obviously we will be solving classification types of problems with the help of logistic regression, because logistic regression is used for classification types of problems. So let's suppose we have been given the data of 500 patients. Okay. Now we created the model to classify these patients as, let's say, diabetic patients, okay, and non-diabetic patients, diabetic and non-diabetic. So actual results are written here. Okay, actual results or actual values are written here, and let's say predicted results, okay, or the predicted values are written here. Now, what are the results? Either the patient can be diabetic or non-diabetic, or you could have taken any other example, no problem, positive, negative, COVID negative, and so on. So either the patient is diabetic, okay, or the patient is non-diabetic, okay, and same thing here, diabetic, non-diabetic, or one can say, let's say, positive, or here the patient is negative, positive, negative. Here also let's say positive, negative, okay, and so on. So our problem statement was to classify the patients as diabetic and non-diabetic. This is what we want to do, and let's suppose we created the model. Now that model has given some results. Okay, that model has given some results. How many diabetic, how many non-diabetic, and so on. Now, as we are talking about this confusion matrix, so see everyone, confusion matrix is going to look like this, and it is having these values: true positive, exactly opposite to this is nothing but true negative, and then there is false positive, and diagonally opposite to this is nothing but false negative. This is nothing but, this is how confusion matrix looks like it. True positive, diagonally opposite to this is true negative, and false positive, diagonally opposite to this is false negative. Now what is true positive, what is true negative, what is false positive, what is false negative? This is what we want to see. See, true positive is nothing but what? A result that was predicted as a positive by the classification model and actually also it is positive, then that is true positive. Let me give you an example. See, let's suppose out of 500 number of patients, let's say our model is saying that 300 patients are diabetic. Out of 500 patients, 300 patients are diabetic. And yes, actually they are diabetic. So your model is true about whatever it is saying about positive patients. Your model is true about whatever it is saying for positive patients. That is true positive. It means a result that was predicted as positive by the classification model, that is our model, and also it is positive. Actually it is positive. That is nothing but true positive. Or you can remember it like this. Whatever our model is saying about positive patients, our model is true. Okay, that is true positive. Now let's say what is true negative. So let's suppose our model is saying that there are let's say 100 patients. Okay, there are let's say 100 patients who are non-diabetic. See, here our model is saying patients are diabetic and actually they are diabetic. Here our model is saying patients are non-diabetic and actually they are non-diabetic. So here also our model is true about whatever it is saying for negative patients. Our model is true about whatever it is saying for negative patients. That is nothing but true negative. Okay, everyone? So here also our model is true about whatever it is saying for negative patients. The only thing is that it is saying for negative patients. Here it was saying for positive patients. But in both the cases our model is true. That is true positive and true negative. True negative is a result that was predicted as a negative by the classification model and also is negative. That is nothing but true negative. Okay. Now, what is false positive? So let's suppose out of this, false negative value is 40. False negative value is 40. What do you mean by this? It means our model is saying that there are 40 patients who are diabetic, but actually they are non-diabetic. So our model is false about whatever it is saying for positive patients. False positive. Our model is saying that there are 40 patients who are diabetic, but actually they are non-diabetic. So our model is false. And let's say this is 60. So here that is false positive. Okay. And what is false negative? So our model is saying that there are 60 patients who are non-diabetic, but actually they are diabetic. That means our model is false about whatever it is saying for negative patients or negative results. That is false negative. So this is true positive, true negative, false positive, false negative. And this whole thing now is called as confusion matrix. This is nothing but confusion matrix. Now to calculate the accuracy, everyone. So to calculate the accuracy now from this data, we have a formula. True positive plus true negative divided by true positive plus true negative plus false positive plus false negative. Okay. So here you can see the accuracy of the model is 300 plus 100 divided by 500. Right. So 400 divided by 500 is going to be accuracy. Right. That means 80% is the accuracy of the model. This is how one can find out the accuracy of the model with the help of confusion matrix. Confusion matrix is very, very important, everyone. You don't have to go and do all these calculations actually, because you will be having a direct method in Python to get the confusion matrix for the model which you are going to create. But going and, as I told you, one can easily create the model. One can get the values easily, but interpretation is very, very important. You should understand the interpretation. Interpretation is what very, very important. If you do not know how to interpret all these things, then what is the use, right? So see everyone, this is what confusion matrix is, and this is how you can calculate the accuracy. But we never depend only on accuracy. Whenever we want to evaluate classification types of models, we never depend only on accuracy. Obviously, accuracy should be as high as possible. But one should not only depend on accuracy. There are some other metrics also one should take into consideration, like precision, recall, F1 score, ROC, and AUC. These are some of the things also which we need to take into consideration whenever we are going to deal with classification types of models. Okay. So anyone any difficulty here in case of confusion matrix? Again, if someone is listening to all these things, anyone any doubt in confusion matrix? Can you at least reply so that I will come to know that you people are there and listening? Any doubt in the confusion matrix? Okay. Fine. I think it means that there is no doubt. If there is no question. But see, again, this is what we will be requiring later on. Whether it's a linear regression, whether it's a logistic regression algorithm, or maybe KNN, or XGBoost, or NeoBase, whatever the algorithm may be, if you are going to solve some classification types of problems, yes, you will need accuracy, right, for classification. And accuracy you can find out with the help of confusion matrix like this. And that's why it is important. Okay. So hope you people are getting the point, or whatever I have discussed here, you people are able to understand that. Now, as I told you that one should not only depend on accuracy, right? Whenever you want to go and you want to evaluate the model, let's suppose you are getting very high accuracy, but that doesn't mean that your model is going to give you good results always. It totally depends on situation. It totally depends on what type of problem you are actually solving, and that is what I am going to discuss now with you. See, I hope you got the point. What is confusion matrix area? As there is no reply, so I will assume that you got the point. Now, how to make sure that our model is the best one? Okay. See, whatever I explained you, all these things are given. Okay. Confusion matrix. Now, this is how confusion matrix looks like. These are the definitions of true positive, true negative, false negative. Accuracy, how to calculate it, just now I told you. You can read the definition also. It can be said that it is defined as total number of correct classifications divided by total number of classifications. So these are the correct classifications which our model has done divided by total number of classifications. Then recall or sensitivity. Now see, as I told you, one should not only depend on accuracy, one should go with something called as recall or sensitivity also. What is recall or sensitivity everyone? So you can see recall or sensitivity is equal to true positive divided by true positive plus false negative. It is a measure of, from the total number of positive results, how many positives were correctly predicted by the model. From the total number of positive results, how many positives were correctly predicted by the model. So TP divided by TP plus FN. Now you can see it shows how relevant the model is in terms of positive results. You can remember this with the help of example. Let's suppose the model gave 50 correct predictions but failed to identify 200 cancer patients. In our case, let's say failed to identify like diabetic patients. Let's say. So recall in that case is going to be C. Model has given 50 predictions, TP value is 50, but it is giving FN as 200. So the recall will be only 20%. So it depends. In this kind of a case, one should recall 100%, right? So it totally depends on what type of problem statement you are actually solving. So recall should be high, right? Or recall, maybe what I can say is it shows relevant. It shows how relevant the model is in terms of positive results. So in this kind of a case, recall should be 100%. Right? Precision, everyone you can see that TP divided by TP plus FP instead of FN, it is FP. So it's a measure of among all the positive predictions, how many of them were actually positive. Let's suppose model identified 50 people as cancer patients, but also raised the false alarm for 100 patients. Those people who are not cancer patients, right? Who are not cancer patients, for them also your model is telling that they are. So again, it is not good. So in this case, the precision you can see that it's 33%. Now, we always, like, there is a problem or confusion, I can say. If you can see which should be greater, whether precision should be greater or recall should be greater. If you think like that, it is not the case. See everyone. You can see this is the precision and this is the recall. And as and when you can see as and when precision is decreasing, right? Recall, or as and when recall is increasing, precision is decreasing. And after some point it is going to remain same. So it is not fixed that both of, or it is not possible that both of them should be high, right? Because with increase in the recall, there is a drop in the precision of the model. So what to go for, precision or recall? The answer depends on business requirement. Now see, this is the example. If you are predicting cancer, you need 100% recall. But suppose you are predicting whether a person is innocent or not, you need 100% precision. How to find out the precision and the recall? Just now we have seen. Can we maximize both? No. And that's why there is something that is called as F1 score as well. And that's why there is something called as F1 score. Now what is F1 score? So maybe mathematically, if you are aware about this, F1 score is something which is actually, let's say if we have two variables, A and B. So the F1 score is nothing but harmonic mean of the variables. Harmonic mean of A and B. So how to find out the harmonic mean of A and B? It is 2 divided by 1 upon A plus 1 upon B. This is called a harmonic mean. So F1 score is actually a harmonic mean between precision and recall. So this equation you can write it like this: 2 into A into B divided by A plus B. So harmonic mean is going to be how? It is going to be given by like this particular equation: 2 into precision into recall divided by precision plus recall. This is going to be the equation of harmonic mean. This is going to be the equation of harmonic mean. So, or the equation of F1 square with the help of harmonic mean. See, F1 score is a harmonic mean between precision and recall, and that's why the mathematical formula is like this: 2 into precision into recall divided by precision plus recall. And what is specificity or true negative rate? So specificity is equal to true negative divided by true negative plus false positive. And just opposite to true negative rate of specificity, there is false positive rate. That is 1 minus specificity is nothing but false positive rate, and this is the formula. False positive divided by true negative plus false positive. Okay. This is the equation for true negative rate and false positive rate. You can check this. Okay. So just try to go through this area. Just give me a minute. I'll be back. Okay, so I hope you have gone through this. See, why are we discussing about something called as ROC, AOC? Receiver operator characteristics and area under the curve. See everyone, after like accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 score, there is something called as ROC, AOC score. What is this receiver operator characteristic? Basically, if you remember, I told you that in real time what happens is, if we have data, okay, let's say this is what the data we have. So what we do is we apply unsupervised learning on this data and we try to divide data into different clusters. Okay, like let's say k-means algorithm we apply. Now we will be getting different clusters, right? Red, let's say yellow, or maybe some other color I can use. Different clusters depending on the similarity between them. Let's say we got 3 clusters. Now see everyone, what's going to happen is on these clusters we are going to apply 5 to 6 algorithms at a time. Now here let's say we apply logistic regression, KNN, and let's say random forest. Now which algorithm to choose out of this? That will be decided with the help of ROC, EOC score. Same thing for this, same thing for this. So let's say this has given me KNN, this has given me random forest, this has also given me random forest. So for cluster 0, cluster 1, cluster 2, we got these 3 marks for these respective algorithms. Okay, this is what we do. This is what we generally do. And that's why we need this ROC, EOC score. That's why I asked you to go to this. You can find out the same explanation. Okay, that is why we are discussing all these things, ROC and EOC. So what is ROC? Let's see this. Here also we require those false positive rate and true positive rate. Okay, whatever I am showing you, this is just for concept. No one is going to ask you to implement this, because in real time what happens is we have a direct method to get the ROC EOC score. See now, what happens is we try to come up with different threshold values like 0, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75 and so on. Now again, how to decide about the threshold value? That is what is given here. So how to decide about the threshold value? For that, this example is given. So we actually, whatever you people are able to see, this is called as receiver operator characteristics. See, I will explain you in short everyone. I will explain you in short. This is false positive rate. This is true positive rate. Okay. And let's suppose I have taken the threshold value as 0.25. What is threshold value everyone? Threshold value is something like, let's say I want to solve some classification problem. So if the probability of for that particular record, for some particular record is greater than 0.25. So that record will belong to positive class, otherwise negative class. Something like this. Now, now we should go with 0.25 as a value, or 0.5 as a value, 0.75 as a value, and so on. Okay, how one can decide it? So you can go and you can try out different values of threshold. So let's say 0.20, 0.25, 35, and so on. So for each value you will be getting different confusion matrices. So which confusion matrix will be chosen from here, or which threshold value will be chosen finally? So you need to choose. See, whatever the markers which you are able to see everyone, these markers you can remember them as one confusion matrix. So this confusion matrix, whatever I got, okay, I have got this confusion matrix with the help of some threshold value like 0.75 or 0.8 and so on. This also I got, this I got. So what we do is from right to left we move, and with decrease in the false positive rate, if there is also a decrease in the true positive rate, that particular confusion matrix will be decided finally. So in our case, this is the confusion matrix which will be decided finally, and the respective threshold value will be decided finally. Because this is the point where with decrease in false positive rate, there is also a decrease in true negative rate. Sorry, with decrease in false positive rate, there is also a decrease in true positive rate. And that's why this particular confusion matrix will be decided. Right? So your ROC curve looks like this. your ROC curve is going to look like this red one. And now after that, what we have is area under the curve. How much area is there under the curve? So whatever the algorithm which is having maximum area under the curve, that particular algorithm is going to be chosen as the best algorithm or the best model. See, let's suppose this red curve we got for KNN and this blue one we got for random forest. So which one is having the maximum area under it? KNN. So KNN is going to be selected as the best model. Okay, KNN is going to be selected as the best model for respect to cluster. KNN is going to be selected as the best model for respect to cluster element. Okay, so as I told you, what happens in real time is we directly try to come up with something called as ROC AUC score. Okay, so how ROC AUC score is calculated? This is the basic idea behind it. Okay, this is the basic idea behind that. For whatever the algorithm ROC AUC score is higher, that algorithm is going to be selected as our final algorithm for the model. This is what we generally do. Okay. Fine. Okay. So I hope, but still, if someone is having any doubt, you can always ask. Now see, after this actually we are going to solve the real-time problem. It's a classification problem. You can see I am going to get some data set. Okay, this data set I will be sharing with you, and then we will be applying the same steps somewhat similar to what we applied in the linear regression. And finally, we will be getting the model. Okay, so how to get the convergence matrix here and so on? You have direct methods. You can see variance and Christian factor, which we have already seen in the last session itself. Only instead of linear regression, it is logistic regression. So you can see this here. Okay, standard scalar and everything. And finally, we will be getting the model with dot SAV extension. And finally, we are going to predict. And see, to get the confusion matrix, you have direct method. I will be showing it to you. Yeah, I will be showing it to you. And you can have accuracy directly, or you can calculate the accuracy by the help of confusion matrix also. Both will be the same value. This also and this also will be the same value. Because accuracy formula, or you go with direct method, you can do that. Just using the recall with the help of formula, you can calculate, and ROC AUC score you can actually come up with, and the significance of ROC AUC score. So I will be showing you the implementation maybe in the coming session. I will be showing you the implementation in the coming session. Okay. So let me share the link also. Okay, attendance link is what we did. Just a minute ago, I will be sharing the attendance link and then we can stop it. Just hold on for a minute. I am sharing the link. Okay. So Vishal sir, are you there? Vishal sir?
Yes, sir, please.
Share the attendance link. I shared the attendance link. And I think for today we can stop it. Okay, everyone, let me know if you have any doubt, anything. Maybe you can let me know in the WhatsApp group also. So for today we'll stop and we'll continue with the implementation in the next session tomorrow. Tomorrow also same time. Is it
Okay,
okay,
sir.
Vishal?
Thank you. Yeah, fine, sir.
Thank you very much.
Hello, participant. Please mark your attendance in next 10 minutes only. Okay. Thank you.